Holy cow. I can't believe the visual that we are finally seeing right now on our television screens. I can't believe it. The WWE title around the waist of the last real good guy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a very special episode of Saturday afternoon's main event. Whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, it's climax. Sami Zayn is now a Grand Slam champion, pinning Cody Rhodes at Night of Champions merely 10 minutes ago to become the new WWE champion. And we'll have a lot to talk about on a show like this today. But of course, incomparably, you have me to begin the show. Merely, of course, you'll have my other co-host. He is, of course, the limousine riding, jet flying, piss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, who's not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So without further ado, let's bring him along. Guys, give me 2 claps and a peeps H.
Woo! Yes, I cannot believe what I saw, but here's the caveat. I made this kind of prediction last week that if they were going to pull the trigger on it, this would be it. WWE has been hinting for really since last year's WrestleMania that this was the route that they were going to go, and that's exactly what they've done. But of course, before we get to all of that other stuff, we have to actually get into the 3 tenets that is going to make the rest of this Saturday go just as smoothly or unsmoothly, depending on if you are Cody Rhodes, and that is laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible.
Indeed. I'm actually shocked that you actually showed up for the second week in a row, being that you left me around a lot. You know, it's... but all in all, welcome, Peeps Nate.
Yes.
Great to have you here on a show like this, although, of course, you have had a phenomenal one, so it's okay. Fear not, your Saturdays will go smoothly today, peeps. But, all in all, to the fans that are watching merely after Night of Champions just now, we thank you guys for going ahead and tuning in on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you are right now. We thank you, we appreciate you. Go ahead and follow us on our social media platforms. Our Instagram being at Saturday Afternoons_main event. Our Twitter being at Saturday Main, and our TikTok being at Saturday Afternoons ME. And I feel that it's only fair that we go ahead and get into this special episode today. There is no 3-rope talk. We're only getting 2 predictions in our review. But of course, guys, like I said, it's only fair that we get started with today's show. When we get started with today's show with our Night of Champions review just taking place, merely beginning at 1 o'clock this afternoon via Saudi Arabia. And of course, 1 o'clock Eastern time here in the US. But of course, what a show. Stat card. Obafemi is the king of the ring. Io Sky is queen of the ring, being that she's already chosen which champion she will face at SummerSlam, being Liv Morgan. Tiffany Stratton retains with the help of one Chelsea Green and a Charlotte Flair who merely has vengeance against Jade Cargill. Trick Williams retains against Ricky Saints in what was a genuinely good match. But of course, Saudi Arabia doesn't go ahead and consist with actually having a good crowd this time around, which has people question what will WrestleMania look like next year. But merely, of course, the most talked about thing as of right now, the main event, the triple threat match for the WWE Undisputed Championship. Of course, Sami Zayn beating Cody Rhodes dead smack in the middle of the ring to become the new WWE champion. Peeps, although it is not my duty and honor to go ahead and ask you how I feel about this show today, since you're on the show, what was this show like for you?
This show, I believe, showcased to the international market when the WWE is hitting on as close to all cylinders as possible. This is the kind of product that you would get. Now, some of the predictions and some of the things that we both talked about that could have happened, that might have happened, it didn't happen. We didn't get a Brock Lesnar sighting. Oba didn't lose. Cody didn't keep the championship. We didn't get any of that. What we did get on this card did advance other storylines and create new ones. We got a Danhausen sighting, where I was not expecting for it to be, of cursing Liv Morgan, which is why Liv ended up losing her match and then having to then give a title match, as you just stated, to Io Sky. So now we know, at least at SummerSlam, we've got one match on the card that has been confirmed. So now it's just a matter of filling the rest of the card, because it's in 5 weeks we're going to get SummerSlam. And the intrigue is now there at the top of the SmackDown side of the card. Let's see what they do on the Raw side as we go forward from here, as that fallout from what has happened on this card has finally starting to settle.
Of course, I appreciate that, Peeps Nate, but Oba Femi, King of the Ring. I think now, with the thought process going, we have an easy choice, and then we have the sustainable choice, which everybody feels that is pointing in that direction.
Yes.
Now I feel as if Oba Femi is about to pull the Bret Hart WrestleMania 10 duty. He's about to go double for double. And which means I'm saying that I believe that Oba Femi, now being King of the Ring, will not only retire Brock Lesnar in the same night in Minnesota, but will also go on to face Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title at SummerSlam. Is that the correlation that we're all currently making as of right now?
I think so, because it wouldn't make too much sense for Oba to go after Sammy. Sammy on SmackDown has his own build for SummerSlam going there, and to throw Oba in there saying, well, maybe he will go after that championship makes no sense. But right now, Oba being the hottest ticket in WWE, being the hottest commodity in WWE right now, if they're going to build WrestleMania for next year, the first steps start here between now and SummerSlam to get us in that mode. And I think we'll see where that goes. And Roman seems to be the next part of this.
I agree. But to the extent, we now see that Jey Uso didn't end up winning that match. So what's the character arc for Jey Uso?
Well, I think what's happening is the part of the bloodline that we continue to keep talking and harping on. The fact that Roman does not seem to look very strongly at Jey Uso because of his lack of winning matches, and especially big matches as of late. We see that he's usurped the right-hand man stuff that he's been usually doing within the bloodline to Jacob Fatu. And I think now that that's the case, are we going to start to see Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso kind of like fall in line, so to speak, mostly on Jey Uso's side to fall in line, because we know they've been portraying him as the hothead of the two Usos. We also are going to have to find out how far down the bloodline this goes, because if we looked at SmackDown and we saw what happened with Solo Sikoa and the MFTs actually left Solo after costing them the tag team title on last week's SmackDown. So where does that fit in to the long storyline? And we've both talked about how the bloodline storyline has been stale and has been rudimentary, very cookie cutter, just from another year. What does that do going forward? And I think that the storyline that they could have told that could have advanced this further didn't happen.
Indeed. Peeps Nate with a presumable, obvious, and great take, ladies and gentlemen. This is crazy being the fact that he's only 700 years old, but you know what? I can take that. That's okay, Peeps. See, you know, with that, you're on the marker with that. But far from that, of course, like I said, we went to Io Sky going ahead and becoming Queen of the Ring. We know she's facing Liv. We know that the storyline between Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill is certainly going to be advancing leading into the next couple of weeks. But one match that we didn't talk about and I left out for good reason is the culmination of one visionary tale. Seth Rollins beating Braun Breaker inside the steel cage to further end his storyline with the Vision and Braun himself. Braun had a great showing within this match, even an act of defiance toward the end, in which Seth Rollins pulled off an amazing victory by delivering a super stomp from the middle rope. But we got that. Now, knowing that Obafemi may be challenging Roman Reigns for the world title, is Seth Rollins back on pace for title contention, or is something else in Seth Rollins' midst?
It would make sense if Seth is still the workhorse champion type of wrestler that he has shown to be, and he is healthy enough to be able to do it. You'd think that he would be in the immediate running for getting back into title contention. We know that, as they've stated, that this was the last of this feud with the Vision, because pretty much the Vision are almost extinct now. Everybody's either hurt or convalescing or in a different path right now. So something has to change. And Seth's story arc with the Vision, I think, just by virtue of everybody being hurt, is pretty much done. The same way that Finn Balor's story arc with the Judgment Day is done by virtue of his finishing that feud and then moving over to SmackDown. So I think now they're going to have to find some different connective tissue to move Seth forward and see where they go with a front-loaded part of the card for him, somewhere in the middle, to meet with another wrestler that can actually challenge him and that he can elevate, while at the same time building and keeping his cachet noted for the rest of this push, because, as we said, SummerSlam is only 5 weeks away.
Indeed, and the tide has changed, of course, being that we now have a new WWE champion. We can go ahead and prolong to see where they can go ahead and come off with this. Maybe now it will be Sami Zayn versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, depending on what they go ahead and proceed to follow through with, where they would want to go with this. How weird, with both men actually being faces in this sense, but one just being the much more presumable individual that the people actually wanted, versus the other individual that is now kind of forced in a spot where he has to be more aggressive in recapturing the WWE title, which we've always said Cody Rhodes is always better at the chase than holding the individual title himself. Pretty presumable with a lot of other WWE superstars within the past 20 to 25 years when it comes down to the WWE title. But again, that was Night of Champions for you guys. Again, the visual coming out of that Sami Zayn World Champion. Certainly something that will be talked about throughout the rest of the evening, into tomorrow, and then leading into Friday Night SmackDown later this week. But, guys, that was Night of Champions. We can move forward with the rest of the show, because guess what? It isn't your typical Saturday afternoon's main event. It is a big wrestling weekend. We have 3 more shows to conquer, all taking place within the span starting tonight into tomorrow night. We have Slammiversary, we have Great American Bash, and then of course we have Forbidden Door. So, all in all, I think it's only fair that we go ahead and get started with TNA Slammiversary. Peeps, it has been a show that individuals have been talking hella about. We have people that should be eyeing for certain individuals to be returning. I guess Amazing Red making his return to TNA after being away for nearly 13 years is the talk of the town for all individuals when it comes down to Slammiversary. But again, yes, Slammiversary going ahead and taking place in the Agnes Arena in Boston, Massachusetts. That will be on the 28th tomorrow, but it's only fair that we go ahead and get started with that. It is a 10-match card, 2 pre-show matches, but all in all, I think it's only fair that we go ahead and cover the 8 that will be taking place on the main card. Peeps, we are going to go ahead and get started with this, as I am currently preparing to put this on the screen. And here we have it. This is the match card. We have to begin Eric Young versus the up-and-coming Ricky Sosa, an individual who has been making strides on the indies, been trending worldwide with his theme song, Bang Bang Sosa Sosa. now going up against Eric Young, who did cost him to have injuries. Of course, we know the kayfabe sense of it was that he was having visa issues, but now being back within TNA, certainly on the main roster, having this match, I can make the claim now that Ricky Sosa is going to be winning this match.
Oh yeah, without question. And it has to be as a debut, a big debut on pay-per-view in ring against the resident professional that is Eric Young to get Ricky Sosa over and see where it goes from there. But right now, Ricky Sosa, the Belgian sensation, is going to start his TNA charter flight, so to speak, with that one. So I think that we're safe to say we can see that.
Okay. Well then, AJ Francis, Elijah. Singles match, and of course, if Elijah loses, Francis will own his name, likeness, and music catalog. Sounds a lot like AJ Francis is on his TKO farewell tour. Well,
yeah.
What are we doing here, right? He wants to own everything. But I can believe that I can go ahead and make the inference that Elijah will be winning this match to retain his name, likeness, and catalog.
Yes. I think it's safe to say we are both looking at that same thing, which is probably the most nonsensical match of the entire card. But then again, every premium live event or pay-per-view has at least one of those kinds of matches, and this is the one that it is.
Peeps talking about nonsensical things, guys. How ironic. But, okay. From there, we have the tag team match for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. The Elegance brand, of course, Heather by Elegance and M by Elegance, going up against Rosemary and Allie, the personal concierge, alongside the Elegance brand. How are we going about this match? I feel that I can say that the Elegance brand will retain the titles.
You don't think that the Dead Team has a shot at winning this tag team championship based on the long-winded storyline that they came up with to kind of build Rosemary and Allie, and then having that payoff here at Slammiversary? Because that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, even though the Elegance brand have had those tag team titles for quite some time, I think Rosemary and Allie are going to come out on top and winning those tag team championships.
Peeps, you know, the fact that you can ask me, which I'm perfectly glad. I'm amazingly astonished that you get to ask me that question, because you know what? I'm going to answer it for you. Unlike you, who constantly goes ahead and thinks everything has to have a perfectly great storybook ending for all the faces around the companies, I myself feel that there is a certain sense of shaking things up. And here, with the Elegance brand, you have a complimentary sense of everything, from the glance of Heather, the elegance of Am. You have everything, and alongside the personal concierge, I feel, my good friend and co-host, that the Elegance brand will retain Rosemary and Allie. Yes, they've been on an incomparable run. Yes, the Dead Team, as you call it. But all in all, shaking it up is what we do here on Saturday afternoon's main event. That's why I went ahead and hosted the show alone 2 weeks ago. So in all duality, my good friend, the Elegance brand is retaining the titles. Point blank, period.
Okay.
Well then, I guess we can go ahead and move along.
Yes, we can, sarcasm aside. Yes, we can.
Why, thank you, Peeps Nate. But all in all, the Ultimate X match for the TNA X Division title. Cedric Alexander, the champion, who once beated one Leon Slater, who is also in this match, versus Frankie Kazarian, Mr. Elegance, Fabian Aichner, Casey Navarro, and of course, the returning Amazing Red. In all sense, this is a match where I'm going to be sitting there watching profusely, because this is a 7-man match. And we know that when it comes down to the X Division, they pull off some of the greatest things in matches when it comes down to TNA. And when you have individuals like Cedric, like Leon, like Kazarian, and knowing Amazing Red from Ring of Honor days, we know what we can expect when it comes down to this match. A lot of high-flying ability, a lot of cruiserweight action. But when it comes down to the victor, give me Leon Slater to win. Peeps?
Okay. So the Leon Slater winning it back again does make sense, in the sense that this is to try to reclaim that X Division title. And usually what they have is that clause where the X Division champ at some point can cash that in for a title shot at the world champion. Can I see that happening? Not necessarily on this show, but at some point I could see that. Leon Slater, if he does stay with the company, that's the trajectory that they should be on. Would we see Amazing Red, who has not been in TNA, all of a sudden come out there and just win the X Division Championship kind of as a nostalgia trip? I don't see that happening at all. Casey Navarro, I don't see happening either. Fabian Eichner has just gotten in there. That would be something really interesting. But here's where I will go. I will throw in the fact that I think Cedric Alexander and what they're doing with the system, I think he's going to try and find a way to hold on to that championship so that Leon Slater can then feel he's going to be hungrier for trying to go after that championship. So I'm going to actually make that my dark horse and say that Cedric Alexander is going to come out of that and win.
Peeps Nate wanting to go ahead and take the Phenomenal One's idea for going ahead and rooting for... You know what? I digress. First one of the day. You can mark that down, peeps. But
yes,
that's our thoughts on the Ultimate X match. But when it comes down to the TNA International Championship being an open challenge, Mustafa Ali going out there, of course, with Tasha Steelz and Special Agent Zero against To Be Announced. Well, Peeps Nate, I want to ask you, who do you feel is going to challenge Mustafa Ali for the International Championship?
That's a good question, because I have no idea. I've been thinking about this since Thursday when they announced it was going to be finding out who he was going to be wrestling at the show. I really have no idea. I don't have one particular wrestler that comes to mind offhand that would get into a match with Mustafa Ali and go in there. Now, what I actually think happens is whoever he wrestles is going to probably end up winning the belt from him based on what they're trying to do. So whoever it is, good luck to them, because I don't have anyone in mind right now.
You know, it wouldn't be shocking if it was some kind of ex-WWE star. You know, maybe a Loomis. You know what? How about Corbin? You know, what has Baron Corbin been doing nowadays? But you know what? You know, in due time, we will find out. That will take place tomorrow. But all in all, I feel that Mustafa Ali will end up retaining no matter what. We move on to the No Surrender match. Of course, an all-going rivalry. Moose, Eddie Edwards. Give me Moose to win.
Yes, I think Moose is going to win. Even though the match is in Boston, it's in Eddie Edwards' hometown. The thought process would be to have him win, but I think based on how Moose was kind of jumped out of the system and him overcoming his back injury to get back into this, to get his lick back, I think that's what's going to happen in this match.
Okay. Well then, the singles match for the TNA Knockouts World Title, Lei Ying Lee versus Xia Brookside. Of course, this has been one of my thoughts on Show Stealer, because the Knockouts division has been improving so much so within the last couple of months. But when it comes down to it, give me Xia Brookside to win.
Yes, and I have a feeling that's going to be the case too. She's shown an extreme character development since she turned. And I think that the way that they're going to go with this is that she wins the championship and becomes even more obnoxious than she already is with her character. So that works. So I think that's where they're going with this.
Okay, then. Well, then, the match that people have been talking about, especially because of the fact of the things that have been happening within the last couple of weeks between the Hardys and the Righteous, who are both in this match, against the Great Hands, Jason Hodge and John Skyler, and against the System, which consists of Brian Myers and Bear Bronson. This is a four-way ladder match for the TNA World Tag Titles. Within the System being the champions at this current point in time, and the Righteous having their thing with the Hardys, the Great Hands are certainly dark horses to win, but when it proceeds to me, give me the Righteous.
I'm thinking the same thing. And I think that it makes the most sense based on how they've been building. The Righteous right now look like the most legit threat to all of the other teams that are in this match. And I think that I can see something happening in this match where the Righteous end up coming out on top and winning those tag team titles.
Peeps Nate wanting to side with the Phenomenal One. Who would have thought, guy? I'm liking this episode. Great to hop on the gravy train, Peeps Nate. Now we have the last match here on the show. The singles match for the TNA World title. This is Nick Nemeth's Call Your Shot challenge, in which he will be taking against the champion, Mike Santana. Is this a so long goodbye for Mike, as he probably will drop the title to Nick and then move on to the WWE roster, which we know is presumably happening? But I think the swan song isn't over. I think Santana pulls off a victory here. Your thoughts, peeps?
I think if we know that this contract is over by sometime during the summer, Santana is going to probably be gone. If that is the case, putting Nick Nemeth for a second TNA World title run would work. I don't think it would be a long-term title run if he does win. But Santana, I think, has something to prove, and especially after what happened on Thursday's Impact of him getting jumped and talking about all the stuff that happened between the two of them, I think Santana is going to end up winning this. And then whoever the next challenger that steps up, that may be the person that eventually takes the belt off of Mike Santana.
Okay. Well then, look, that marks the end of our predictions here for TNA Slammiversary. We will go ahead and get to our Great American Bash predictions on NXT and our AEW Forbidden Door predictions. But before we go ahead and do that, this is the half-point marker where we do go ahead and introduce the ratings. Peeps Nate, after not having the AEW ratings from last week, I'm hearing that the ratings came in on time for you this week?
Yes, they finally did. I'll give you last week's ratings, and then I'll give you this week's ratings so that we can get that connected. Okay?
Well then, peeps, proceed.
Thank you. AEW actually won last week. 665,000. That was the number that we didn't get. With a 0.12 in the demo, where NXT did 610,000, and they got a 0.09 in the rating. Now, giving you that from last week, here's this week's ratings, and NXT flipped the script on this one, and NXT won 668,000 with a 0.11 in the demo, and AEW did 616,000 with a 0.10 in the demo. So the demo for AEW staying in that same range, but there was a drop, and I think it probably has something to do with World Cup games going on against them for both shows. So that's what I think has happened. In general, SmackDown, their rating they got 1.19 million watching their show, and they got a 0.25 in the demo as well. So those ratings have been well. Collision has been pretty good. Collision, last week they did 364,000. Collision this past week did 350,000. So there was a slight drop, but they're staying within that 350, 360 range. Over the last couple of months, they've been hitting 450, 500 kind of on a consistent basis. So this is kind of a lower point from what they've been getting for their ratings. So that's where they've been right there.
But like you said, of course, with the World Cup, we now have another set standard of sports for individuals to have to gravitate towards. But being that the numbers are in the 600s, you would think that, okay, it's actually taking a good step, because of course the finals and the playoffs had that number stagnating between the 500s. But now, being that they're both at the 600s, doesn't seem like there's much of an audience that is taking joy towards watching the World Cup instead of professional wrestling. But maybe the number changes worldwide on certain different other parameters, being that soccer is much more bigger in the Europe continents and, of course, Africa and, like the Middle East and Australia of some sorts. The U.S. is, of course, usually dead last when it comes to the professional sport of soccer. So professional wrestling probably wouldn't take a nosedive as of that. So maybe this is just a stagnant number of what it is currently.
Yeah, I think the World Cup kind of bled some of their numbers a little bit.
Just a bit.
Just a bit, yeah.
Understand. Well then, look, peeps, I have to say, you did your homework this week. I appreciate it. Why, thank you. But, all in all, we have our question of the week, and it comes from Long Island Isaiah. He says, being how the WWE books its shows, is the roster currently too bloated? It's the same group of people on the shows every week. Catering can't be that good, right? You know, how do I answer you, Long Island Isaiah? You know, hasn't this been the case for decades, where the WWE uses the same group of people on the weekly shows to build stories that sometimes may not have a good ending of some sort? You have the Bloodline take up maybe a full-on hour. You have Cody Rhodes take up a good 30 to 45 minutes on the show. Then you move it along with matches from other individuals like Michin and B-Fab and Charlotte Flair. And one Chelsea Green, who's now finally going ahead and making her strands around alongside Tiffany Stratton. You know, that has been weekly SmackDown television, 3 hours at most every single Friday for the last 7 to 8 Fridays. That's what it's been. You have the Judgment Day showing up on your television screen every now and then. No Dominic going ahead and highlighting the fact that he's AAA Mega Champion. Or I should say, the greatest AAA Mega Campeon of all time. The king of the luchadors, who doesn't show off that he's a luchador because he's just being Liv Morgan's lackey. This is what we're doing here on WWE television. Of course, the roster's too bloated. But what is it with WWE? Oh yeah, it's kind of like with what AEW was doing a couple of years ago, owning stars like they're Infinity Stones. Just have them, just to have them. What happened to Royce Keys, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, that's a name that people kind of remember? I mean, you know, take a look at this. WWE has a set standard of people that they want to use. Do they genuinely use them at most? No, it's never been the case. You saying that the roster is currently too bloated. It's been bloated, which is why Vince McMahon used to have budget cuts every 3 months, which is why TKO is now moving forward with having people take pay cuts. This is what we're doing. This is what's being shown. On the contrary, you know, I have to say, AEW has been using their roster very, very, very well over the last couple of months, where they're showing a blend of divergence within the sets of Collision, within the sets of the weekly Dynamite, having them shown on pre-shows, on a buy-in, and, you know, every show leading up to the pay-per-views, and the pay-per-views having a set standard of individuals being used constantly. Tag team champions being shown from side to side, from angle to angle. The women's division being shown, highlighted on a cusp weekly without issues. AEW is using their roster to the fullest extent as of now, even though their roster is even bloated as well. But there's more highlighting to the individuals that they have, and you can even see them on Ring of Honor television if you have my AEW. But you know, I don't. But all in all, we're not Corey the Brain here. We're not steady shills. We're just fans of professional wrestling, speaking on professional wrestling. So in all duality, WWE's roster, it's been bloated. Get used to it. They're never changing the dynamic anytime soon. They're using who they want to use, that is being profitable, and then that's it. Expect another budget cut within the next 2 months. But Long Island Isaiah, thank you for that. I can go ahead and move along. And by saying that, I say, guys, if you feel as if that you want to send in a question like Long Island Isaiah, where we can diverge into the comment and say to you what it is that we're exactly feeling, take the notion and send in a question. All you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on our Instagram at Saturday Afternoons_main event. Peeps, point! Yes! Good sir, thank you. But all in all, at Saturday Afternoons_main event, send in a question in the words of the Wrestling God WWE Hall of Famer JBL. I guarantee it'll be on the next episode of the show. With that being said, I think we could go ahead and move along with our next set of predictions for Great American Bash, also taking place tomorrow. What a set wrestling weekend. I know Peeps Nate has nothing to do with his life, so obviously this for him is a field day. It's all right, Peeps. It's all right. Look, I understand. Being on this earth for 700 years, it gets tiring. But all in all, more wrestling for you, my friend. But
yes.
But all in all, again, Great American Bash. We now have a 7-match card. This is dead set. Look, we can get started from the bottom to the top. The singles match for the NXT Women's title, Lola Vice versus Kendall Gray. It'll be a great showing for Kendall Gray finally getting that opportunity against Lola, but I think we all know what's going to happen here. Give me Lola Vice to win and retain. That is my thought process, Peeps. What is yours?
It's the same. I think Lola is going to win. Like I said, Lola's just won this belt recently. They're not going to have her lose the belt that quick. So Kendall is an up and coming star, maybe akin to an up and coming Kurt Angle, where I believe that's where they're going with her, how they're developing her. I just don't see her winning the championship this soon. At least not yet.
At least not yet. Understand. Next, we have the singles match between Shiloh Hill and Tristan Angels. Another great showing for Shiloh Hill, who has been up and coming and has switched from being a dark web enthusiast to being a alligator hunting Florida boy to what is he now?
He's toothless aggression. He's
toothless aggression.
I have no idea. They're doing something with him where they're tapping into his wild side of his unpredictable kind of that country nature of his workman ethics kind of thing. Yeah, they've tapped into that personality, but Tristan Angels, very conceited, very cocky. He's got to get a win at some point. I just don't think it's going to happen tomorrow. I think that Shiloh is going to win this one to kind of keep him moving forward.
Well, other than Peep Snake speaking about Wild, understanding the fact that he has had the same haircut for the last 70 years, I could go ahead and say that Shiloh Hill will go ahead and will win this match, so you can go ahead and put me down for Shiloh as well. But Peeps, from there, of course, the NXT Women's North American title is on the line. Zarya, the champion, going up against Tatum Paxley. Zarya, of course, winning the title a couple of weeks back. I see her retaining. She isn't losing this title anytime soon.
Exactly. I don't think that Zarya has to worry about anything. She didn't have to worry about anybody interfering. And this is the way you build her towards, I think, eventually getting to the NXT title shot that she probably feels that she deserves.
Understand. Well, then the singles match, Dion Lennox went at the old concurrent dark state, going up against their old teammate, Saquon Sugars, who they went ahead and turned on the last premium live event for NXT, or I should say the last NXT show pertaining from 4 weeks back. Give me Saquon to win this match.
Okay, you got Saquon. I've got Dion winning this one. Obviously, Saquon Sugars has to get his comeuppance. He has to get that lick back. But at the same time, I think they have to try and keep Dion strong. And I think in doing that, they could have Saquon lose this match while Dion still looks good with the dark state. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
Okay. Well then, the singles match for the WWE Women's Speed title, even though I don't understand why in the blue hell we still have a speed title. You know, it's funny. Why is it that every single time the WWE wants to introduce a title and they see that it gets sucked up and under and nobody gives a crap about it, they have to delegate it to NXT to go ahead and figure out what to do with it? You know what? I digress.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, thank you. Please write that down. Yes.
That's number 2. Yeah,
yes,
you go.
Yes, thank you. At least you're keeping count. But when it comes down
to I always?
Yeah, I mean, you have no other choice. But then again,
really? Okay.
Then again. Look, thank you. But Ren Sinclair, the champion, against Ariana Grace, previous Speed champion. Give me Ren Sinclair to retain.
Okay.
I feel that they need to push up somewhere else with Ariana Grace. It's being shown that she has been doing some of the best work of her current career. I feel that she should be in another contention, maybe for the Women's North American Championship, maybe for the women's title on NXT. This is, for me, just a stepping stone. She doesn't need this title. Continue to keep it on Ren. That's my thought process.
I'll agree with that in the sense that right now, even though Birthright is getting that push where they're going to try to start putting championships on this group, this is not the belt to start with. Especially since Ariana Grace is not in those really small, short, 3-minute matches that the Speed Championship usually dictates. So that is where I think that she will probably end up losing this match. So I think this is going to go to Ren.
Okay. Well then, the singles match for the NXT North American title. Miles Bourne, the champion, against Tavion Heights. You got Lisp versus Grander. Give me Grander to win. Tavion Heights will be your new NXT North American champion.
Okay. I've got Miles retaining. And I think that with Miles retaining this championship, it's to continue on to that lineage of let's see how long he can hold it and have any of these matches that is usually synonymous with the North American champion on NXT, which has kind of been their workhorse championship, so to speak. So I can see that happening. Tavion Heights, I don't think is ready yet to hold gold, but I can understand if it does happen, this would be the night to do it.
Okay. Well, for the last match, we have the singles match for the NXT title. The champion, Tony D'Angelo, going up against, of course, who we know is evil, now being Naraku. This is going to be a good showing. This is going to be a great match. Although I think we all know what's going to happen here. Naraku is not winning his first shot at the NXT title. Give me Tony D'Angelo to win this match.
Yes. This is Tony D's first real challenge since winning the NXT title. And I think that it's going to be... I can see a rematch happening after this, but especially given what happened on this past Tuesday's show with the contract signing and fireball in the face and the bleeding eye, that would give them an out if Tony D'Angelo does lose. I just think that he's going to overcome all of this at the Great American Bash and end up winning this match because they've got to build Tony D up a little bit longer for his eventual loss of that championship.
And when do you feel that is coming, Peeps Nate?
I can see this happening going well into maybe Halloween Havoc, maybe just shortly around that time. Can they keep the NXT championship on them until at least September, October in that neighborhood? I could see that. But right now, I don't think that they're going to have him lose the belt that soon.
Okay. Thoughts coming from the Peeps Nate, ladies and gentlemen. But with that being said, that marks the end of our predictions for NXT Great American Bash. Now we have our final topic. Lo and behold, it's been exactly 42 minutes into the show, and now we finally have gotten to the part where everybody has been waiting for, because this is the show that individuals are going to want to see. AEW Forbidden Door. Hailing, of course, from one San Jose, California at the SAP Center, we have All Elite Wrestling. We have CMLL. We have New Japan. And then, of course, Stardom. You have a set of everything within this show. And, of course, it is an 8-match card. We could go ahead and remove the 2 matches from the pre-show and just go ahead and make it 8. But still, in the same sense, it is still a heavy card with a lot happening within it. So, as I go ahead and proceed to show this up on the screen, let's get ready to mark some predictions for our final show of this big wrestling weekend. We begin with Cope and Cage versus Dave Finlay and Clark Connors, the Dogs, for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Cope and Cage winning these titles at Double or Nothing. We now have the opportunity to sit there and say that they will be retaining the titles on this show.
Yes,
that is
Cope
my thought
Cage.
process.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment to make. Cope and Cage winning. This is going to be a really good looking match. I believe is going to be quite violent based on what they've been doing to each other. So yes, I can see that happening. And it's kind of crazy in the fact that we're talking about the tag team division and knowing that FTR has potentially kind of put themselves on the shelf for right now as they're trying to reevaluate what they plan on doing. This could be a harbinger for what happens within the AEW tag team division.
Indeed. Well, from there, we have the 3-way tag team match. The Bucks, El Sky Team, of course, Mystico and Mascara Dorada versus Unbound Co., Shingo Takagi, and Titan. You have a little bit of everything here. You have CMLL, you have New Japan, and then, of course, you have AEW itself, / New Japan, even though the Bucks, you kind of dead started New Japan when you kind of think about it. But, all in all, this will be a great showing of tag team action, and I believe that at the end of the day, you will go ahead and have a lot of people within the Hispanic community singing towards Mystico's song, So I know that this will be exciting for a lot of people. But when it comes down to it, if you want to go the safe route, you have El Sky Team win this match. But all in all, I think the Bucks are on a come up as of right now, being that they're currently back being somewhat faces within the company, away from all of the dirt and grime that they've had spewed on them for the last couple of years. They're finally in the good graces of the fans. So, in my sense, I have the Bucks winning this match.
Bucks, like you said, it's the safe pick. They are the safe route. The Bucks over the last, say, year and a half have been literally putting everyone else over to some degree at their own expense to get other teams over. As far as this being Forbidden Door, and the complaint that a lot of people have been saying is that a lot of AEW teams and wrestlers have been winning with no real payoff to any of the New Japan stars or CMLL stars. I can still see the Bucks coming out on top and winning, although I think the safe bet, or at least the one that makes the most sense, if it's not them, El Sky Team would work.
Indeed. So that's why I'm saying I would want to go ahead and see the Bucks. Although, if it is Mystico and Mascara Dorada, give me that as well. I have no issue with that. But
there you go.
We have the next match for the AEW Continental title. Bandito going up against the champion, the Wild One, Jon Moxley. Give me Moxley to retain.
Yes. They're keeping this belt on Mox for I don't know how long, in perpetuity. So, yeah, I think that's going to be the case. Everybody knows I mark out looking at Bandito's matches, knowing what kind of matches he's been having over the last year. Ring of Honor World Champion, having tremendous matches in general. But against Mox, I don't see him coming out on top.
Absolutely. Well, from there, you have the singles match for that IWGP Global Heavyweight title. Shota Umino, who is the champion, going up against Pac. Guys, I feel that this will probably be the first win for New Japan within this show. So give me Shota Umino to retain the title up against Pac. Pac will have a great showing. He'll put on a banger match, but we know the outcome here. There's no way that the Global Heavyweight title was going to be changing hands here at Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
Nope.
And it's not going to change place in the United States, I don't think, either. Although the showcase is there for the pay-per-view, I just don't see it happening. And Pac winning, knowing that he's had visa problems going back and forth traveling, him winning the belt to travel to Japan to defend it and come back, I don't see that being the case. So, yeah, I think that's Pac is not going to win that.
Indeed not. But another highlight of at least New Japan within the same sense of Stardom, Thekla, who is a Stardom alumni and currently the AEW Women's World Champion, defending her title against the Starlight Kid.
Yes.
Give me Thekla to retain. She has had a great showing of booking this match, especially going ahead and showing up on Stardom just to go ahead and at least add some intrigue to her character and the match itself. I feel that this is going to be a great showing within women's wrestling once more, because AEW has been highlighting the women to a great degree, especially Thekla being the face of the women's division holding the title. But of course, we know that Thekla is going to retain. So
yes, you know, she fired the first shot when she spit on their logo a couple of weeks ago when they booked the match. So yeah, I think that's what the case being. Her going to Japan and getting into it with the president of Stardom, knowing what the issue was and getting banned from the arena, kicked out by security, it brings intrigue internationally. And I think Thekla is going to come out on top with this because she's shown as one of the, as Tony Khan has called it, one of the new pillars of AEW. There's no way she's losing this match.
Indeed. But the next match will correlate to what might happen at All In. And this is definitely going to be a warning shot for Thekla herself once she does retain the Women's World title. Mercedes Moné versus Maya World in the final of the Women's Owen Hart Cup. And of course, the winner of this match and the winner of the cup will receive an AEW Women's World title shot at All In. Mercedes Moné will win this match and grant herself the opportunity to go back to All In and try to get a fair shot at this title again. Last time around, it didn't work. We know what happened then. And they have been booking this in a sense where she was vacating title after title, either losing it and putting all over the next individual. Now, this is her trying to regain her sense of being back at the top. So we know what's going to happen here. Mercedes Moné is going to win the Women's Owen Hart Cup. Can't put it any better than that. So
yes,
we can already put it out on the markers and the marquee. All In, Thekla Moné for the world title.
Yes. And I think that the story that they've generated with Maya World getting here in the finals makes sense because she lost her brother some time ago. And I think that the push was to kind of showcase her. Maya World, for the most part, has been competing on Ring of Honor television over the last couple of months. And now that they're showcasing her as being that wild card fill-in, and has gotten as far as she did, and then even beating Athena to get to this point, I think worked in the sense that Athena was her teacher and Mercedes Moné was her idol. And they actually all hugged it out when the match was done, only for them to beat her up. So that is the intrigue of the match going in. So I like that, but there's no way that she's going to beat Mercedes Moné.
Absolutely agree here. But as it pertains from there, we also go ahead and see somebody in the comment section, Taekwon Mills, returning once more. He says, Thekla versus Moné is my prediction too. We all feel the same way, Taekwon, so appreciate you for shouting that out. But all in all, he also has other things to say. We will definitely go ahead and highlight that later on in the show once these predictions are over. But when it pertains towards that, we now have a singles match. Of course, a showing of New Japan and ex-New Japan talent, and of course, AEW talent. Kenny Omega versus the one and only Zack Sabre Jr.
Yes.
This match will put on a banger. They will definitely go ahead and highlight a lot here. It might just be as good as the next match that might come after that. But when you sit there and you see these two on a marquee, I go ahead and I say one individual might win this match. Give me ZSJ. Kenny Omega's in the time where he is genuinely highlighting all the other professional wrestlers that he goes ahead and gets into matches with. And being that he has been through a series of injuries, being that he is genuinely much more on the cusp of leaving professional wrestling sooner rather than later, I see that he could definitely go ahead and put over ZSJ in this match here. It's not like they're fighting for any means, for any title here. It's not like anybody has something to go ahead and win for, but this is just going to be a beautiful showing of the sport of professional wrestling as we know it. So, in this sense, ZSJ will win this match.
Yeah, I think Zack Sabre Jr. will win. I think it's one of those deals where it's the storyline of the old veteran kind of doubting himself. Remember the pep talks that he was having with Will Ospreay before Ospreay was kind of like adopted into the Death Riders, to kind of keep your focus together. And we know that Omega wants that last run as AEW World Champion. He's got to go through this. I can see the pit stop of him losing to Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay. Well then, with that being said, 2 more matches to go here. And now we are at the Men's Owen Hart Cup final. And of course, like the women, the men will receive a title shot for the AEW World Championship at All In. We know where this is going. We know how this is going to end. We know we have been calling it for weeks. You know what? Months. Will Ospreay will beat Swerve. Is that a shocker for you, ladies and gentlemen? I don't think so.
Not by a long shot.
Okay. No explanation needed whatsoever. We know Ospreay versus MJF at All In is what they're calling. We know that Tody's already salivating and possibly getting one off in his mother's basement to this match already. Set the marquee, get it going. This match will be a highlight tomorrow night. But all in all, if you need a victor on the end of the pinfall, it'll be Ospreay. And then last but not least, you have the steel cage match. You have Team Briscoe versus MJF and his team within the Don Callis family, which also has 87 other family members. But when you correlate with this, if Briscoe's team wins, he will earn an AEW World title match against MJF. Like that's gonna happen. Okay. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen. Give me Team MJF to win this match alongside the other 87 indegenerate hillbilly family members of the Don Callis family. Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, Jake Doyle, Kaz Okada, and Andrade, who is somewhat of a dark horse in this whole thing. So that's that for me.
I'm going the opposite direction, and here's the reason why. Within MJF's tag team, and this has been the highlight over the last 3 weeks, is that Kevin Knight, Kyle Fletcher, and Andrade El Idolo are all having bickering arguments about who's going to be the next guy to take on MJF for the World Championship. And they're going to be on the same team. At some point in that cage match, one of those three is going to do something that's going to cost MJF the fall. And I think that Briscoe's team is going to end up winning this, where Briscoe then gets an AEW World title shot. He's not going to win the world title from MJF, but I can see a world where they have another match because MJF and Mark Briscoe have really good chemistry in ring. So I can see that happening. But somewhere in this match, there's going to be some kind of dissension, some kind of shenanigans, and MJF's team is going to end up losing this. And I can see MJF flipping out at the end of the match and just cursing out everybody on the team and then walking off.
Well, then, we have yet to go ahead and see what takes place within the next 25 to 27 hours when it comes down to this. But all in all, before we go ahead and end this show on a light note, we have a couple of people in the comment section going off. Yo Yeeted says 2 members of the Bloodline are now world champions. Oh, Jesus, are we really counting Sammy in the Bloodline again? This is what we're doing? Guys,
Sammy Uso, eh?
2023 has been over for how long? And we're back into it, huh? This is what we're doing. Taekwon also said, Sami Zayn can say... We love you too, Taekwon. But all in all, X-Man Xavier says this. He says, I would not be shocked if both current champs are not holding the AEW World titles by All In. It would much more be a shocker to me if Thekla were to not be champion by All In, because I would love to see the Thekla versus Monet match. Although, if that is the case, then so be it. But MJF as well not being world champion, Peeps, what do you say about that? Do you think it would be a good chance that MJF would be champion by All In?
No, not a chance. He right now is the money match between himself and Will Ospreay, and they're going to have nice weeks and weeks of building for that match, and then that whole Death Riders part of it they have to still kind of explain. But in general, the money match is MJF versus Will Ospreay in London at All In, where we get a coronation of Will Ospreay winning the AEW World title, especially 1 full year after his neck was pretty much destroyed.
I can definitely see that. So it's genuinely treading in that direction. But we also have a newcomer here on Same. It is the High A fan. That's the number 1 peep 1A. He says, hey, everybody, we got Christian Cage. They'll beat the Dogs. Yes, that is definitely in our predictions. We have Corbin Cage winning that match as well. But shout out to you. Thank you for going ahead and tuning in to Same and tagging along in the comment section here. Salute to you, my friend, and hope to see you later on next week for our next show. But all in all, that marks our predictions for AEW Forbidden Door. But that is also the end of today's show. So what else can I go ahead and possibly say towards this? We have a new WWE champion, and we have 3 more shows to go on this cusp of this great wrestling weekend. So what else can I possibly say other than the fact that thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of today's show. We will definitely be back next week for our review of these 3 shows in itself. I thank the Peeps Nate for being here today. Although he wasn't here 2 weeks back. But, you know, you were a help today, bud. Great job. Pat on the back. 15 inches away from a kick in the rear, right?
Yes, yes.
All in all, this marks the end of today's show. We'll see you next week. This was Sam, where I, the phenomenal one.
And I, the Peeps Nate, and for Mr. 411, we came.
We saw.
And in the words of the great Paul Heyman,
send us home, Moses!
We conquered.
Why, thank you. We conquered.
Mm-hmm.
Peace. Love. Farewell.
Extreme.